I stare at my laptop screen, blinking repeatedly as if the numbers might somehow change. They don't. The balance that should show $53,000, my entire college fund, my safety net, my future, stares back at me as a glaring zero. My heart pounds in my ears, and a cold sweat forms on my forehead. My fingers hover over the keyboard, unsure if this is a technical error. I refresh the page. The zero remains. No, I whisper to my empty Boston apartment. No. The UTMA account my grandparents set up when I was born, the one my father, Gregory, has managed for years. The one that was meant to support my final year at Boston University's architecture program is completely empty. My hands shake as I grab my phone from the coffee table. Outside, spring sunlight floods the city, a warm glow that suddenly feels cruel. I dial the Columbus area code, my father's number etched in my memory since childhood. 1 ring. 2 rings. Melanie, he answers, his voice confident and familiar. How's my college girl? I swallow hard, struggling to get the words out. Dad, I'm looking at my UTMA account. It's empty, a pause. Just long enough for me to realize he already knows. Oh, that, he says, casual and dismissive, not remorseful. I had to move some things around. Just borrowed it for a stock opportunity. Great timing, actually. Markets are prime for investment. The room tilts. I grip my desk to steady myself. You borrowed $53,000 without telling me? Listen, honey, it's not a big deal. You're smart. You'll figure it out. Take a semester off, get one of those modeling jobs they always offer. Don't worry about it. His dismissal ignites something in me, cutting through the shock. That money was for my education, I say, my voice unfamiliar even to myself. Grandma and Grandpa set it up for college. You can't just take it. Melanie, he sighs, as if I lack basic understanding. Family helps family. This is a great opportunity that benefits all of us. I close my eyes, suddenly recalling the neighborhood barbecues where he was the center of attention, our modest Columbus home that he claimed to maintain. In reality, it was my mother, Helen, who preserved the household, working double shifts at Robertson's Grocery and nights at Finley's Diner, while Gregory played the devoted father, PTA treasurer, and community leader. Always a performance. Dad, I need that money back. Now! My tuition is due in 3 weeks. Don't be so dramatic, he snaps, clearly irritated. You're 24. Time to stand on your own instead of expecting handouts. I laugh hollowly. Handouts? That was my money, legally mine. Look, I've got a meeting. We'll talk later. The line clicks. I stare at my phone, trembling violently, almost dropping it. I take 3 deep breaths and call him back. He answers on the 4th ring, annoyance clear. What, Melanie? You need to return that money. Today, I say, my voice firmer, fueled by rising anger. Family matters more than money, he replies, tone hardening. Maybe it's time you quit wasting time with school. With your looks, you could make real money modeling. Use what God gave you instead of piling on more student debt. The suggestion hits like a punch. 4 years of architectural studies, Dean's List honors, and a portfolio that had already impressed 2 firms, all reduced to how I might appear on camera. I'm not quitting school, I tell him, holding back tears with every ounce of control. And I won't trade my mind for my looks. I need my money back. Call me when you've thought more clearly about what matters, he replies coldly, before hanging up. The line goes dead. This time I don't call back. I open my banking app and pull up all statements from the past year. Within minutes, the evidence unfolds in black and white. January 3rd, withdrawal, $500. January 17th, $3,000. February 2, withdrawal, $500, small amounts, spaced deliberately over 8 weeks, carefully calculated to avoid detection. The last withdrawal, $3,000, on March 28th, empties the account entirely. Digging deeper, I find financial websites explaining UTMA accounts. The funds should have transferred fully to my control at age 21. For 3 years, he had illegal access, justifying it with a story about tax purposes. The room seems to shrink as I realize the scale of his deception. The man who preached responsibility and integrity had been systematically stealing from me. Trust, already fragile from years of broken promises, shatters completely. I wipe a single tear and open my laptop. This betrayal cannot stand, not now. Final exams are in 2 weeks, an internship interview follows, and there is no safety net. Yet I hold something he underestimated: the truth, documented clearly, and a determination stronger than fear. Have you ever realized someone you trusted completely was deceiving you? How did your body react? The next day, the bus from Boston to Columbus takes nearly 15 hours. I stare at farmland in small towns through a smudged window, rehearsing conversations I doubt will ever happen. What do you say to a father who stole your future? I reach the Greyhound station just after 6 in the evening. No one is waiting. I hadn't given them an exact arrival time, partly because bus schedules are unreliable, but mostly because I wanted these first hours in Columbus to be mine alone. The familiar weight of Ohio summer humidity surrounds me as I walk 12 blocks to our modest colonial in Bexley. Each step feels heavier than the last. My phone buzzes. Mom. Dinner at 7. Your favorite lasagna. The house looks smaller somehow. Blue shutters faded from years of Midwestern sun. I pause at the walkway, studying the hedges and the ceramic bird bath Mom bought at a garage sale a decade ago. A picture of middle-class respectability. What a lie. Dad's silver Buick gleams in the driveway, freshly washed as always. Maintaining appearances? Mom answers the door before I can use my key, pulling me into a hug scented with tomato sauce and lavender lotion she's worn since I was a child. There's my college girl, she says, smiling though her eyes reveal exhaustion. She's finishing a morning shift at Robertson's and will head to Finley's Diner by 9. My father is in the dining room setting the table. I force a smile. He straightens as I enter, arms outstretched for a hug I step into reluctantly. Melanie, look at you. Boston has turned you into quite the sophisticated young woman. I pull back quickly. It's only been 1 semester since Christmas, Dad. Well, you look different. He gestures toward the table where 3 plates are set. Your mother has outdone herself with dinner. I watch him carefully, searching for any hint of guilt or shame. There isn't any. Instead, he pulls out my chair with his usual flourish, just as he has since I was old enough to sit at the adult table, the perfect fatherly gesture. During dinner, Mom asks about my finals and internship interview. I answer mechanically while observing Dad as he slices his lasagna into precise squares, occasionally dabbing his mouth with a napkin. He appears exactly the same, confident, composed, the respected office administrator, PTA treasurer, neighborhood barbecue host. Halfway through the meal, he announces unprompted, "Financial responsibility is what separates successful people from failures. I was just telling your mother with inflation these days, you need to be extra careful with your money." The lasagna turns to ash in my mouth. I set my fork down slowly. Is that so? I ask. Absolutely. I've been reading about sound investment strategies. The key is knowing when to seize opportunities. Mom nods, too tired to notice the irony. I bite my tongue until I taste blood. After dinner, Dad announces he has a work meeting and leaves. Mom starts loading the dishwasher, ignoring my protest that she should rest before her next shift. I'll just lie down for an hour, she says, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. There's pie in the fridge if you want dessert later. Once she's upstairs, I wait 15 minutes, listening to the house settle. Then I move quietly toward Dad's office off the living room. The door isn't locked. Why would it be? In this house, Dad's word has always been law, and his space was always respected, until now. The room smells faintly of his sandalwood aftershave. A folded Columbus Dispatch sits on his desk beside a mug that reads, "World's Greatest Dad." I start with the desk drawers, finding only office supplies and old checkbooks. The file cabinet reveals tax returns, warranty information, and insurance policies, all meticulously organized. I begin to doubt my decision until I notice his navy jacket hanging on the back of the door. My fingers tremble slightly as I reach into the pockets. Right pocket, car keys, half a roll of mints. Left pocket, folded paper, several slips. My heart races as I flatten them on the desk, casino chip receipts from River West Casino. One for $500, another for $1,000, a third for $2,500, all dated within the past month. The truth hits me like a physical blow. He didn't invest my college fund in stocks. He gambled it away. I sink into his desk chair, documents spread before me. With renewed determination, I turn to his computer. The password takes 3 attempts. My birth date, Mom's birth date, finally their anniversary, and I'm in. His browser history is cleared, but his email remains logged in. I search for River West and find promotional offers, VIP invitations, special events, dozens of them going back months. The printer hums in the corner as I print selected emails. Then I discover his credit card statement tucked in a folder labeled Finances, Personal. My hands turn cold as I scan the transactions. ATM withdrawal, River West Casino, $300. ATM withdrawal, River West Casino, $500. ATM withdrawal, River West Casino, $750. The pattern repeats over several pages. I print 2 of them. Later, in his wallet, hidden behind his driver's license, I find a card with gold lettering, River West Casino. Diamond Club member, the top tier of their loyalty program. Footsteps on the stairs make me panic. I quickly return everything to its place except for the printed papers, which I fold and slip into my pocket. I close the browser window just as Mom appears in the doorway. "Thought you might like some tea," she says, holding a steaming mug. Her hands are red and cracked at the knuckles, nails kept short for practicality. Working hands, honest hands. Thanks, Mom. I take the mug, guilt and anger warring inside me. "Everything okay?" "You seem quiet tonight," she asks. I force a smile. "Just tired from the trip." She nods, accepting the simple explanation, trusting me completely. "I should get ready for my shift," I say. Before she can leave, the front door opens and Dad's voice booms through the house. "Helen, is there any lasagna left?" "In the fridge, Gregory," she calls back. Dad appears in the doorway, pausing when he sees me at his desk. His eyes narrow briefly, then return to their usual cheerful expression. "Studying in my office? The lighting's better here than the living room, isn't it?" "I was just checking email," I lie, watching his reactions. His gaze flicks to the screen, then to the desk. "Find everything you need?" "Actually, yes," I hold his gaze. I found exactly what I was looking for. A subtle shift crosses his face. Fatigue, calculation, but it's brief. "Good to hear," he says casually, turning to Mom. "Heading to work soon? Want me to warm up the car?" "I've got time, we were just chatting," she replies. Dad's phone buzzes. He glances at it, then back at us. "I need to take this. Work stuff." He steps into the hallway, closing the door. Mom sighs. "Always working that one." I sip my tea to avoid revealing the truth about how he spends his hours. Not yet. Not until I'm certain. When she leaves to prepare for work, I pull out my phone and text Aunt Alicia. Need to talk. Legal question. "Can we video call tomorrow at 2? Her response is quick, of course. "Everything okay?" I stare at the cracked ceiling of my childhood bedroom. The casino receipts heavy in my pocket. "No, but it will be," I text back. Later that night, I'm reading when Dad knocks and pushes the door open without waiting. He leans against the frame, arms crossed. "I noticed you were in my office earlier," he says quietly, scanning my things. I put down my book. I found the casino receipts. Anger flashes across his face before he masks it. "Those weren't mine. I was holding them for a coworker." "Really? And the Diamond Club card? The ATM withdrawals? The VIP emails? All for a coworker? You had no right to go through my personal items." Defensive, he snaps. "What I do with my money is my business." "It wasn't your money," I say, voice shaking. "It was mine, my college fund, set up by Grandma and Grandpa, emptied by your gambling." "Keep your voice down," he hisses, glancing toward the hallway. "Your mother doesn't need to hear your wild accusations." "Wild accusations," I say. "I have proof, Dad. Printed copies of everything." Something dangerous flickers in his eyes. "You're making a mistake, Milani." "No," I reply steadily. "The mistake was trusting you with my future." He stares for a long moment, then leaves, closing the door firmly. I wait until his footsteps fade, then text Aunt Alicia again. Change of plans. Need a 3-way call with Mom. Bring everything on UTMA laws. I spend the night organizing the evidence, the betrayal, the theft, the deception. Tomorrow, the 3 of us will confront the truth. Would you confront a family member who stole from you or try to preserve peace? What would you risk? 2 days later, the fluorescent lights of Aunt Alicia's law office cast harsh shadows across stacks of documents. Her usually organized desk had become a command center, legal pads filled with notes, tabs marking critical pages in financial records. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, punctuating each sentence with firm taps. "The custodial breach is obvious," she muttered, not looking up as I entered carrying 2 coffee cups. What Gregory did wasn't just morally wrong, it was illegal. I placed her coffee beside her keyboard, black with 1 sugar, just as she'd preferred since law school. The aroma of fresh coffee mixed with the sterile office air. Outside the window, Columbus was gray and overcast, reflecting my mood. "Will it hold up?" I asked, my voice steadier than the trembling cup in my hand. Dad's always been good at talking his way out of trouble, Alicia replied, finally looking up. Her eyes, so much like my mother's, narrowed with determination. Charm doesn't work in court documents, honey. Numbers tell the truth when people won't. She swiveled her monitor toward me, displaying a formal letter, cold and precise in tone. The words, "Demand for immediate restitution and breach of fiduciary duty," stood out. "This goes out today, certified mail." She handed me a copy. No more talking. No more chances. We're past that point. I nodded, running my finger along the edge of the paper. How's Mom doing with her attorney? Linda's the best divorce lawyer in the state. Your mother brought 20 years of financial records. A small, fierce smile crossed Alicia's face. Helen Wilson may have been quiet all these years, but she kept meticulous records. That evening, Alicia's kitchen became our war room. The oak table, once the centerpiece of countless holiday dinners, now held legal documents, bank statements, and 3 mugs of tea. Mom sat across from me, her waitress uniform replaced by a simple blouse, her hands finally still after a long day of serving others. I found these in the attic, Mom said, sliding a shoebox toward me. Inside were faded bank statements from before I was born. Your father's gambling isn't new. I thought he'd stopped when we had me. Alicia spread the papers in chronological order. This establishes a pattern. It matters. It matters. I watched my mother's face. Her resignation slowly shifted into something else. Determination, maybe, or anger finally allowed to surface. I worked double shifts for 20 years, Mom said quietly. I thought I was helping build something, our home, your education. Her voice caught. All while he was... She trailed off. Alicia reached across the table, covering Mom's hand with hers. Being family doesn't mean escaping accountability. Mom nodded, straightening her shoulders. No, it doesn't. 2 days later, Dad received Alicia's letter at Midwest Insurance Associates, where he'd managed the office for 15 years. I wasn't there to see his face, but his reaction arrived on my voicemail within hours. Melanie, this is ridiculous, he said, his voice strained, lacking his usual confidence. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Call me. We need to talk about this legal nonsense. I didn't call back. Later that night, another message arrived. This is your father. I raised you better than this. I only borrowed that money for our family. Everything I've ever done was for this family. Call me. The third message came at midnight. His voice was slurred and angry. You think you can threaten me? With lawyers? I'm your father. I changed your diapers. I drove you to school. I supported your ridiculous architecture dreams when you could have done something practical. This is how you repay me? By humiliating me? I played the messages for Mom and Alicia the next morning. Mom's face went pale, then flushed with anger. Those dreams weren't ridiculous, she said. You were drawing buildings before you could even write your name. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Cousin Margot. Your dad called us, she said without preamble. He says you're trying to ruin him over some misunderstanding about college money. What did you tell him? I asked, pulse quickening. That he should pay you back what he took, Margot said, her voice hardening. Then he said you were being dramatic and ungrateful, that you've always been his difficult child. I hit record on my phone. The recording Margot sent captured my father's desperate lies, each more elaborate than the last. How I'd supposedly agreed to the loan, how I'd spent the money myself, how Mom was mentally unstable and untrustworthy. That night, Mom called me after her shift at Finley's Diner. Her voice sounded hollow yet stronger than before. I broke down tonight, she said, right in the middle of serving table 12 their meatloaf special. Mom? I'm so sorry. Don't be, she replied. Something had changed in her voice. Brenda from the kitchen guided me to the break room, and soon Loretta joined us, followed by Mike from the grill. I pictured the diner staff, the people who had seen me grow up visiting Mom at work, gathered around her in support. They had witnessed everything over the years. Mom spoke steadily about her exhaustion, about how Dad never attended her workplace events but expected her at all of his, about the times he dropped by to borrow money from her tips. Through the phone, I heard a soft tinkling. What's that? I asked. My wedding ring, she replied. I just took it off. There was a faint note of astonishment in her voice. 26 years, and it slides off as though it was never meant to stay. I pressed my hand to my mouth, holding back tears. I'm wiping tables right now, she continued calmly, bare hands on the surface. Do you know how strange that feels? Like I've been wearing invisible gloves all these years. The next morning, Dad discovered he was locked out of the family home. Mom had changed the locks overnight with Mike's help. His key cards to their joint accounts no longer worked. Alicia had ensured that as soon as the demand letter was issued. He's been calling neighbors, Mom told me during our morning check-in, claiming I was having a breakdown and that I'd turned against him. Does anyone believe him? Martha next door had already seen his car at River West Casino enough times to know who was struggling. Mom's laugh held no humor. People aren't as blind as we think. Dad's carefully maintained image was collapsing. The PTA treasurer lecturing on fiscal responsibility. The neighborhood barbecue host criticizing those who mismanaged money. The father who taught me to balance a checkbook at 12, all while secretly stealing from his own daughter's future. You're going back to Boston tomorrow, Aunt Alicia said that evening, handing me a printout of my flight confirmation. I'll handle things here, but the legal process will take months. You need to focus on finishing your degree. Her expression softened slightly. That's the best revenge, you know, succeeding despite him. I glanced at the flight details, then at Mom at the kitchen table, her bare ring finger occasionally touched by her other hand, as if confirming its freedom. I can't afford to finish without that money, I said. You'll get it back, Alicia said firmly, the same determination that had won her countless cases. Every penny plus interest. I've already filed the emergency injunction, Mom looked up. And I'm selling the dining room set your father insisted we couldn't live without. It should cover your books for next semester. I studied the two women, faces similar yet shaped by different struggles. One who fought openly, the other endured quietly, both now refusing to yield. Something new stirred in me. Not just determination. I had always had that, but a deeper certainty from knowing I wasn't alone. Okay, I said, straightening my shoulders. I'll finish my degree and Dad will face consequences for once. Mom nodded, a single tear tracing her cheek. Some things matter more than peace, honey. Some fights are worth having. Outside, Columbus prepared for evening, streetlights flickering on one by one. Tomorrow I'd return to Boston, to models, blueprints, and the future I refused to surrender, supported by these women, my true foundation, stronger than any architecture I would design. A month later, the Ohio courthouse rose before me, solemn and imposing in sandstone. My fingers trembled slightly as I smoothed my charcoal pencil skirt, professional armor against the betrayal awaiting inside. Aunt Alicia walked beside me, briefcase swinging with purpose, her heels clicking confidently against the marble steps. Ready? She asked, her hand warm on my shoulder. I nod, my voice catching. Through the heavy wooden doors, past security, down a corridor smelling of furniture polish and faded hopes, I see him immediately. Dad sits with his attorney, heads bent in quiet conversation. He wears his Sunday suit reserved for appearances, with the practiced expression of a concerned father, the mask I once accepted without question. Our eyes meet across the room, his flash with momentary panic, before settling into self-righteous composure. Everyone rises as the bailiff announces Judge Harriman's entrance. Her silver hair is cut in a practical bob, reading glasses perched on her nose. Wilson versus Wilson, she declares, scanning the files before her. Custodial account dispute. Dad's attorney goes first. Mr. Bentley, silver-haired and articulate, rises with deliberate poise. Your Honor, this is a simple family misunderstanding, he begins, his tone calm and persuasive. My client acted in what he believed were the family's best interests during a temporary financial challenge. I swallow hard, tasting bitterness. Temporary hangs in the air like a warning. Aunt Alicia stands, her voice controlled and precise. Your Honor, this was no misunderstanding. We have documented systematic withdrawals, over 8 weeks totaling $53,000. This constitutes a clear breach of fiduciary duty under the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act. She methodically presents evidence, bank statements, text messages, recorded calls in which Dad admits taking the money. Judge Harriman's expression hardens with each piece. Mr. Wilson, she says, peering over her glasses, these withdrawals appear deliberate and calculated. What explanation do you offer the court? Dad straightens his tie, a gesture so familiar it tightens my chest. Your Honor, I've always put family first, he begins, voice steady with practiced sincerity. This money was intended for Melanie's future. invested to yield better returns than a standard account. And where are these investments now, Mr. Wilson? The judge asks. Dad shifts uneasy. There were some unexpected market fluctuations. Her raised eyebrow says it all. An hour later, we sit in the settlement conference room. A mediator presides over our small group. Dad and his attorney on one side, Aunt Alicia and me on the other. No warmth, no pretense of family. I can offer $15,000 now, Dad says, leaning forward. The remainder in installments over 5 years. Aunt Alicia doesn't glance at me. Full repayment plus 5% interest, non-negotiable. Dad flushes. That's unreasonable. I don't have that kind of money. Then wage garnishment is the alternative, the mediator explains, neutral but firm. Federal law allows up to 25% of disposable earnings until the debt is satisfied. You'll ruin me financially, Dad says, finally looking at me. His fear is genuine. Quietly but firmly, I respond. Like you tried to ruin my future? He flinches as if struck. Later that afternoon, we attend Mom's preliminary divorce hearing in the same courthouse, a different courtroom. Dad's confident glow has faded to a gray pallor as Mom's attorney presents evidence of mortgage fraud and unauthorized credit. Cards. Mrs. Wilson worked 2 jobs, believing her earnings were supporting our education. Instead, Dad diverted funds to gambling while creating debt in her name. His desperate claim, Helen knew everything, falls flat as the attorney shows years of falsified statements. The judge does not hide his disgust. This court finds clear evidence of financial misconduct, he states. Mom sits 3 seats away, hands neatly folded in her lap. When the judge delivers his ruling, her shoulders slump slightly, as if letting go of a burden she has carried for too long. Earlier, in the first courtroom, Judge Harriman approved our settlement with precise efficiency, full repayment of $53,000 plus 5% interest, direct wage deductions from Dad's paycheck, and federal garnishment of 25% of his disposable income until the debt was cleared. The court declared him in clear breach of fiduciary duty. The judge notes that this settlement represents the minimum consequence for such a violation of trust. I watch Dad's face as reality breaks through his carefully maintained defenses, mouth slightly open, eyes wide with genuine shock. He truly believed he would evade responsibility, that his charm would protect him as it always had. Outside, spring sunlight warms my face, but there is no joy. I've won, yet the victory feels empty. Aunt Alicia squeezes my hand. You did the right thing, she whispers. I nod, eyes following Dad as he emerges from the building, shoulders slumped, attorney speaking urgently beside him. He looks diminished, older somehow. I know, I reply, turning away. But doing the right thing still hurts. What is the value of trust and honesty in a family? Is there a price too small to fight for when principles are at stake? 4 crimson tickets lie on my kitchen table, each representing a seat at tomorrow's Boston University Architecture School graduation. My finger traces the embossed university seal, feeling the weight of the decision with each pass. 4 tickets. I whisper to my empty apartment. Mom, Aunt Alicia, and my 2 closest friends, Sophia and Trevor. Not Gregory Wilson. Not the man who nearly destroyed this future. My phone buzzes. Dad, his 5th message today. When should I book my flight? Need to request time off work. The casual assumption in his words sparks familiar heat in my chest. I take a breath and type, I only have 4 tickets. I've allocated them to Mom, Aunt Alicia, Sophia, and Trevor. I won't be able to accommodate you at the ceremony. His reply is immediate. This is ridiculous. I'm your father. Of course I'll be there. I set the phone down, hand trembling slightly. 6 months have passed since the court order. 6 months of wage garnishment payments arriving in my account. 6 months of his alternating guilt trips and demands for gratitude because he is making things right. Messages flood in again. You wouldn't even have a graduation without me. I worked for years to support your education. What will people think if your father isn't there? The last message almost makes me laugh. What would people think if they knew the truth, that he gambled away my college fund and a court had to force repayment? I silence my phone and continue packing my graduation cap and gown. Graduation morning arrives bright and clear. Boston glistens under a deep May sky as Mom and Aunt Alicia arrive with coffee and pastries. Oh, honey, look at you, Mom says, tears in her eyes. She seems lighter somehow, despite the new lines around her eyes. The divorce is finalized and freedom suits her. "Stop it, Helen. You'll ruin your makeup before we even get to the ceremony," Aunt Alicia says gently, handing me a garment bag. "Your robe might wrinkle if you carry it. Let me hang it for you." In the hotel room, Mom sits me at the vanity mirror and opens a small velvet box from her purse. "This was your grandmother's," she says, revealing a delicate silver pendant shaped like an architect's compass. She wore it when she worked as a draftsman in the 1960s, rare for women at the time. I touch it gently. I didn't know she was in architecture. She wasn't allowed to advance, Mom says, clasping it around my neck, but she would have been so proud of how far I've come with my talent. The pendant feels cool against my skin as tears threaten to fall. I stand and hug her tightly. "Thank you for everything," I whisper against her hair, breathing in the familiar scent of her grocery store hand lotion mixed with coffee. "You did this yourself," she says firmly, despite everything. A knock at the door announces Sophia and Trevor, arms full of flowers and a handmade banner that reads, "Melanie Wilson, Architect Extraordinaire." The graduation procession feels almost unreal, hundreds of us in identical robes and mortarboards, walking across the quad toward the ceremony pavilion. Parents and friends line the pathways, waving and snapping photos. I scan the crowd and spot Mom, Aunt Alicia, Sophia, and Trevor in their seats, faces glowing with pride. Then I see him, Gregory Wilson, standing at the entrance to the seating area, face tense with determination. He wears a new suit, likely bought for this day, and holds an absurdly large bouquet of roses. My step falters for a moment, but the procession moves forward, carrying me along. Horror strikes as he pushes toward the student seating, ignoring the usher asking for his ticket. "That's my daughter," he announces loudly, pointing at me. "Melanie Wilson. She only made it because of my sacrifices." Whispers ripple through the crowd. My face burns with embarrassment, yet I keep moving. "Sir, you need a ticket," the usher says firmly. "I'm her father," Gregory replies, voice rising above the murmurs. "I deserve to be here. I paid for all this." From my place in line, I see Aunt Alicia rise gracefully from her seat, her attorney's poise unmistakable. She intercepts him in the aisle. "You don't have a ticket," she says calmly but firmly. "You don't belong here." "Get out of my way, Alicia," Gregory hisses, loud enough for nearby rows to hear. I deserve the front row as her proud father. "No," Aunt Alicia stands firm. "You were expressly not invited." Two security officers approach, professional and uncompromising. "Sir," the taller one says, "we need to see your ticket, or we'll have to ask you to leave." "This is ridiculous," Gregory shouts, drawing more attention. "That's my daughter. I'm entitled to see her graduate." "Sir," the officer repeats, "leave now or we'll escort you out." "Do you know who I am?" Gregory demands, face reddening. "I'm Gregory Wilson. I've sacrificed everything for her. Without me, she wouldn't even be here." The officers exchange a glance and each takes one of his arms. "No, this is outrageous." "Melanie, tell them who I am." "Tell them I'm your father." I stand frozen in line, mortified as hundreds of eyes swing between us. My classmates shuffle uncomfortably. One friend squeezes my elbow in silent support. Security begins moving Gregory toward the exit. He continues shouting about his parental rights, growing more desperate with every step. "You can't do this to me. I'm her father. I've done everything for her." As they finally remove him from the pavilion, an unexpected sensation washes over me. Not the embarrassment I expected, but relief. The truth of our relationship is clear for all to see. No more pretense, no more masks. I catch my mother's eye across the crowd. Concern is there, but when I give a small nod, she visibly relaxes. Aunt Alicia returns to her seat, smoothing her skirt, composed and unshaken. The ceremony continues. When my name is called, I walk across the stage with my head high, accepting my diploma as cheers erupt from my 4 true supporters. For the first time, I understand. Family isn't defined by obligation or blood. It's built on honesty, respect, and showing up when it matters. Those 4 people who earn their seats know this, and now I do too. Have you ever had to set a boundary with someone you love who betrayed you? How did it feel in that moment? A month later, candlelight flickers across the faces of my dinner companions at Luciano's, one of Boston's hidden culinary gems. Mom's tired eyes now sparkle with renewed energy. Aunt Alicia raises her glass of Pinot Noir, her attorney persona softened by genuine pride. "To Melanie," she announces, her voice carrying over the gentle hum of the restaurant. Not only did she earn her architecture degree, but she fought for her future and won. My two closest friends, Jenna and Taylor, clink their glasses with mine. Their unwavering support carried me through those nights when I doubted I'd make it this far. I never doubted you, Mom says, reaching across to squeeze my hand. The truth hangs unspoken. This celebration is so different from the lavish parties my father would throw. Events showcasing his generosity rather than my accomplishments. Those gatherings were never about me. I have something to say, I announce, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. I raise my glass toward the circle of women who formed my safety net when everything else collapsed. Without you, I might have given up. You didn't just help me recover what was lost. You showed me what genuine support looks like. Mom's eyes glisten as she smiles, the light catching the moisture there. Jenna leans forward, her architectural portfolio peeking out of her bag. Speaking of real support, tell them about Westfield and Reed, I prompt, feeling warmth rise in my cheeks. I accepted their offer yesterday, I continue. Junior designer starting next month. The table erupts with cheers, loud enough to draw glances from nearby diners. Once the celebration quiets, I add, I signed a lease on that apartment near the Commons, the one with the breakfast nook perfect for drafting. My mother's expression shifts subtly. Is it affordable? She asks. Every penny is mine, I assure her. My salary covers it comfortably. What I don't say is how I've calculated the budget precisely, factoring in the garnished payments from Gregory's wages that have begun appearing in my account. The first one arrived yesterday, 1,273.62 hours, a cold transaction number where a father's care should have been. Your turn, Mom, I say, deflecting attention. Tell them about your new place. She straightens, quiet confidence replacing the exhaustion that once seemed permanent. Just a small apartment near Robertson's, but the windows face east. Morning sunshine, she says, her voice gaining strength. And one job now, just one, she adds. The divorce papers were finalized Tuesday, Aunt Alicia notes, raising her glass once more, to new beginnings for both Wilson women. Sunday morning arrives, soft spring sunlight streaming through my windows. My phone rings, Mom's name lighting up the screen. Just checking in, she says, her voice carrying a lightness I'm still adjusting to. Our conversation drifts naturally until she falls silent for a moment. I should have seen the signs years ago, Melanie, she whispers. All those late nights he claimed were work meetings. He fooled us both, Mom, I reply gently. Remember when he insisted he needed that new leather briefcase for client meetings? And we found it stuffed with candy wrappers in the garage 3 months later, she finishes, letting out a small laugh. The sound of her laughter mends a piece of me I hadn't realized was still broken. Later, I walk through Boston Common, my steps light despite the weight I carry. Students lie across the grass, textbooks open, basking in the spring sun. Ahead, a young woman struggles with a stack of architecture books that threaten to topple. I quicken my pace, catching a heavy volume as it slips from her grip. Structural Engineering Principles, I read from the cover, smiling. Second year? I ask. She nods, grateful. These are heavy. Mind if I help? I'm headed this way anyway. As we walk, I see myself in her determined expression. That evening, I sit at my desk, confirmation email open on my laptop. My new savings account, secured with triple verification, stares back at me. I transfer my first deposit, watching the numbers rise, each digit representing the security I've built for myself. My phone buzzes with a text. Gregory's name appears. Melanie, you need to reconsider this whole legal... I swipe it away without reading further, turning instead to the design sketches for my first professional project. He thought taking my money would take my future. Instead, his betrayal made me stronger.